welcome to the very first preview of the 2024 AFL season for the Carlton Football Club right here on the Blue Abroad YouTube channel. It's so good. It's so good. Whew. Waited a long time, done our off season, done our reflecting, had to face ourselves. Now we get the footy. Now we get the greatest distraction of all time. This fantasy that we all live in, this emotional roller coaster that we all ride every year, this thing that we cannot control the outcome of, but we still get so emotionally invested with, and it's back. And I'm so happy. And nothing else matters right now other than the Lions on Friday night. And that's what it's going to be. We're at the Gabba opening round. Something different this season. A lot of commentary around opening round. My take on opening round is what it's going to do is for those of us who are in Melbourne, who are used to having the first game of the season in Melbourne, it's just going to create a little bit more spice and tension and FOMO. And we'll all be there next week, packing out all the stadiums, not only Carlton fans, but all the clubs, all the big Victorian clubs. So whatever. There's no time needed to complain about opening round. It is what it is. It's here. And if anything, our Queensland supporters will get the first game of the season. And fair enough, because they do a pretty good job. The Lions. So it's the rematch of the prelim. A phenomenal night that was. A phenomenal experience that was for all supporters, whether you were there or whether you weren't. Now, in the season preview, I spoke about this symbolic moment at the end of the prelim where, we've lost the game. Usually when Carlton lose a game, there's anger, frustration, spice, bit of everything. But rarely do we see a standing ovation. And that was spoken about a little bit in the preseason, in the clips that we've seen. And I think it's important that the players, the staff, the team felt that, given what had transpired only months earlier at the halfway point of the season. And so I do wonder what that did for them. I know it has been spoken about, but I truly do wonder what they did for them and their motivation. We've spoken about what it's like for them to react to a season where it was, by and large, looked at as a success. We've had seasons where we've needed to bounce back off disappointment and failure and misery. And sometimes that's a little bit easier when you are coming back from, a hole, as opposed to reaching a height and staying motivated. So we're going to find out over the course of the next, 5 months, 6 months, what their motivation levels are like. There's still a lot of football ahead of us at the time of filming this. And so that's that. Now, I actually want to call out myself and a lot of you that I've spoken to, because the conversation around this game has been fascinating. Pretty much 95% of the conversations I've had about this game all center around what we don't have, why we can't win. Oh, but Wiedering's not there. Oh, but Walsh, we don't know. Oh, Martin's not going to play. Oh, the Lions, it's too hard. No one's beating them. It's just, stop it. Stop it. I'm not the friend that'll tell you what you want to hear. I'm the friend that'll tell you what you need to hear. And this loser mentality is gross. And it's an ick. And it's got to stop. So, enough. There's plenty on the park to beat any team any week. We had injuries at the back end of last year. We played against the best teams in the competition, got the job done. There's a way to win this game, no doubt about it. And my question when I was thinking about it, and to be honest, it wasn't until I started thinking about it in this way that I came in here and started filming, because I was going to film this tomorrow, but I'm ready today and I'm ready right now. There's under no circumstance would we want the players, the staff, or the team thinking like this. So why are we thinking like this? What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Now, we may lose this week. We may lose. It's likely that we're going to lose because we're not favoured to win the game. But it's not impossible. This team is not that basket case team from 2020, 2019, where it was literally impossible to see a way for them to win a game of football. Yeah, we're losing a couple of players. It is what it is. We've got a pretty solid list now. The profile is there. there is a possibility, and the group is no longer the group that we used to watch. And maybe we just forgot that. Maybe we've just going back into bad habits. But I don't want anyone, especially at the stadium, to have that type of energy from the first bounce. Like, it's going to be, it's actually one of the hardest assignments in football. Brisbane at the Gabba. They've earned that title. They're in their window, and they're well and truly in their window. I would say they're 4 to 5 years in their premiership window. So they've got the most experience of, the teams at the very, very top over the last, half decade or so who haven't yet won a premiership. They came agonizingly close. And so we get a perfect test as to where we're at straight off the bat from the top, The Lions, on the other end, they're not traditionally perfect from the get-go. They're obviously an experienced side that understands the marathon that is an AFL season. So I don't know, man. Anything's possible. Like, what if we lose this week? Is it, I told you so? And then if we win, it's, but the Lions just weren't going as hard because they're not as good early in the season. Like, I just sense this negativity. It's like it's starting already. Everyone's already starting and looking for something to jump at and get angry about. I don't know, man. Fire up. Wake up. Maybe because footy's not in Melbourne for the first game. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just a little different. It doesn't feel the same. The buzz in the city of Melbourne isn't quite the same. I don't know. But what I do know is this team is capable of going all the way. I really do believe I know that. I know that they're capable of going all the way. Maybe that's an opinion. Maybe that's not fact. But based off what I've seen them achieve and what I've seen them endure, more importantly, it's what I've seen them endure. They've endured a lot more hardship than the Brisbane Lions this Friday night without Wiedering and maybe without Walsh. So, I don't know. I'm just fired up. Fired up for the footy to be back, and I want everyone else to be fired up as well. So, come on. When it comes to the individuals, I mentioned 2 names there that probably won't play. We haven't got full confirmation on Walsh, but, you connect the dots. Hasn't done any of the practice matches. Sat out the last training session just now. We'll see. If he plays, it's his 100th game, so I do want to at least mention it in case he does end up playing. If it's not this week, it might be next week. I don't know. When we see him, we'll see him. When he's playing, that's when we'll see him. Jack Martin's probably the other one that we know who's very important for our structure and the way we play. But at the end of the day, I am curious to see what they've worked on with full intensity. No excuses this Friday night for a lack of defensive intensity for 4 quarters. You could make the case that at the end of last season, they were a little bit cooked and they just ran out of steam, and that was that. You could. So by that logic, they'll be as fresh as they possibly can this week because it's the first game of the season. So I feel like if we can bring that heat, that trademark Carlton heat, it's going to make it very hard for any team to beat us. We've got a couple of handy forwards. Actually, we've got 2 Coleman medalists in our forward line that are actually pretty handy as well. I don't actually think anyone has said why we can win. So I'm going to ask the question. Yes, we're not favoured to win the game, but can we win the game? Do you believe it's possible if we do something? If so, let me know. Like, how can we win this game? I'd rather look at what we can do to win something as opposed to walk into any situation and talk about why we can't do it. I just think that is the most petty, icky, loser mentality anyone can have. And I don't want them in the team to think that way. And so I don't understand why we would think that way. It's not about being blindly positive. It's just about understanding that the result hasn't happened. And why are we trying to already be angry? I don't get it. But what about you? Have you felt the fever yet? Have you felt the fever of footy hitting you, or do you need a couple more days? I am curious to see how this opening round dynamic will play out. I feel like we'll know more next week and the week after when footy returns back to Victoria and back to Melbourne. And for all the interstate teams that do complain about the Victorian bias, well, the reality is there isn't anywhere near as much buzz about the football season than when it is at the MCG, and there's 90,000 people there for a couple of games. So that's that. Also, how many of you are going up? Detail to me how you're feeling about flying up, selection, where your head's at, and if you're ready to get on the emotional roller coaster again, or if you need a couple more days. I'm pumped. I can't wait. See you guys on Friday night at the Gabba against the Brisbane Lions. Go Blues.